Hello, friends. On this Thursday, April 3rd, I would like to talk about why we are living in the dumbest timeline and reiterate why public health is a team sport and this you do you approach is fucking us all. And I want to have this conversation using measles because it still boggles my fucking mind that we are in the year 2025, 60 years after the introduction of the first vaccine, 40 years after the introduction of an effective vaccine, and yet we're in the middle of one of the worst measles outbreaks in the United States history since the introduction of the 2-dose vaccine. An utterly preventable tragedy. Texas, the epicenter of the US outbreak right now, along with neighboring New Mexico, has over 470 confirmed cases of measles. And I say confirmed because there are people who are not getting tested and having measles parties. You know, like the chickenpox parties that people my age had when we were kids, which is fucking dumb. Because this isn't a new virus. This is a consequence of falling for some anti-vax bullshit. And I mean it. It's bullshit. We have had millions of people in study for decades that prove that vaccines do not cause autism. It's not up for debate. It's not an open question. It's something that has been extensively studied, and the people who tell you otherwise are lying to you, usually to swindle you for their own financial gain. It's not intellectual curiosity, it's willful ignorance. And it comes at a cost. One child has already died. 41 have been hospitalized. One adult has died. This outbreak has seeded other outbreaks in neighboring states, including Oklahoma and Kansas. And yes, we know that for a fact because they have been genetically linked. But it's not just here. It's in New Mexico and Kansas, other parts of Texas, in California, in Tennessee, several different places in Michigan, in Colorado. And measles isn't like the chickenpox, which, let's be clear, also has long-term consequences and is also not a nothing burger. But measles is worse. It can damage your immune system, wiping out the immunity to everything you have ever been exposed to, naturally or via vaccine, prior to getting measles. And that damage lasts for years. This isn't new news, and yet, in the acute phase, it can cause conjunctivitis, damage to the cornea, including and up to blindness. It can cause permanent hearing loss, and these aren't rare exceptions. Pneumonia affects 1 in 20 kids who get measles. Encephalitis, 1 in 1,000. It hospitalized 1 in 4 kids who are not vaccinated, and it kills 1 to 2 out of every 1,000. But that's just what happens immediately. The longer-term consequences are things like SSPE, which doesn't show up for 7 to 10 years. If it spread to an entirely unvaccinated population in the US, you're talking about between 73 and 146,000 deaths from the acute phase, and an additional 3 to 8,000 in the 7 to 10 year horizon. Consequently, it has huge economic impacts, even when the cases are small. And even the kids who feel like they recover may not recover for the rest of their life. And what's more disturbing to me is to see the doubling down on some of this ideology. Like this absolutely horrific quote from the parents of the child who died in Texas. I have no words. These people should not have children. They are monsters. And the bigger problem is that too many places are susceptible now. Here's a decline in the vaccination rate at neighboring Idaho, who's probably looking at the cases in Washington and Kansas and going, Same thing in Vermont. In fact, over 40 states have MMR vaccinations in kindergartens below 95%, which is the threshold considered herd immunity. So we're failing at protecting each other because we are, I think, so selfish that the idea that we have to do something for the greater good is just not in us anymore. And here's where I come back to the why it's a team sport. Because a consequence of having so few people vaccinated and having so much community spread is that we are seeing breakthrough cases in vaccinated people who are spreading it. This is how you get disease mutation. This is how you get evolution away from vaccines. Because not everybody who's vaccinated produces sufficient antibodies to be protected. And antibodies wane over time. So I don't know how old this adult was. Were they old enough where they were no longer immune? I don't know. Were they unlucky enough to have been in the generation that got a single dose and is even less protected? I don't know. Were they somebody who didn't produce antibodies, which a small percentage of people never do? I don't know. Or this teacher in Texas, who clearly is trying to protect herself because she was fully vaccinated and got a booster shot and still managed to get measles from her students in a low vaccination part of the state. Vaccines are amazing, but they are most effective when all of us have taken them, which is a concept that just seems completely lost on people, and I don't understand why. It's a team fucking sport. And it certainly doesn't help that people keep traveling places while sick. It has a reproductive rate of 12 to 18, meaning it will infect 90% of the people who are exposed and unvaccinated, and it hangs in the air for hours. So someone going to the gym or a hospital can infect people for hours even when they're no longer there, which is why it is a terrible idea to be banning masks now. Not just because of an ongoing COVID pandemic, not just because of a brewing H5N1 pandemic, but also because of this. And this isn't just a US problem either. We're seeing outbreaks in Pakistan, Canada, the Netherlands, Brazil, the UK, Scotland, London, Vietnam, seeding outbreaks in other places like South Korea. And I think the repeated COVID infections, especially in the younger generations that were less vaccinated, is absolutely making this outbreak worse. They are more likely to get a breakthrough infection. So all of this is to say that, again, public health is a team sport. This is entirely self-inflicted, mostly by grifters, who are screwing all of us. And even the vaccinated, who are taking steps to protect themselves and others, are paying a price. The vaccine nearly eradicated this disease. And yet here we are, because people are choosing not to vaccinate based on a lie. The vaccine is incredibly safe, but measles is not. So get vaccinated if you're not. Encourage others to get vaccinated. Check your titers if you've been vaccinated but are not sure you're still immune. And mask up because, like I said, we live in the dumbest timeline.